What's going on, everyone? So something that I think needs to be discussed is the tank race this year and the impact for the Lakers and a potential trade, right? You hear all the talks about patience, right? I've preached it. I've heard from, Rob Pelinka and the Lakers that hey, we're trying to find deals. We're actively working, try to find trades, but we need to remain patient, wait for that right deal to develop. When that deal comes, then we can make the move and upgrade the roster, right? Ideally, you want the trade to get done ASAP. You want to go into the season with your roster intact. You want to go into the season with your roster ready to go. And if you do make a trade at the deadline or something, it's like a minor trade. It's like, we could use another shooter. Let's go get Seth Curry or something like that, right? You're just making kind of a minor trade or two, or maybe you're upgrading in a specific needed area, right? You don't want to have to go into the season and then you get to the trade deadline and you're doing an entire roster rehaul. Now, last time we did that, the Lakers did make the conference finals, but that kind of an outlier more than like a regular thing. Obviously, talent and key positions and fit and stuff, there's a lot of things that go into it, right? And I do think, and I've said myself, that I think if the Lakers were to go into the season as currently constructed, I don't think that that's the end of the world, right? Again, this is a team that won 47 games last year, and that was with an incompetent coach. That was with all the injuries. If we win 5 out of the 10 games we lost in that 10 out of 13 stretch, we're the 4th seed, right? So I do think that we could weather the storm. Again, ideally, I prefer a trade ASAP. I prefer a trade like this time last week, but I am okay with the patience. I understand it's hard to be patient. I understand that it's hard to, as fans, we don't want to, especially if we start off bad, right? If we look good, I think a lot of the frustrations that people have, a lot of the Lakers, I think a lot of that will be tempered. Now, I'm not saying that it'll completely escape people, right? I think people still want to trade, but if the Lakers, start off 10-2 as opposed to 2-10, right? You're going to have a very different fan-based reaction than if you were 2-10 or something, or the Lakers are just bad, right? Let's say they're 500 through 20 games or something. They're like 10-10. It's not good. But as you move closer, particularly to the trade deadline, you're going to have teams that, A, want to be bad, that are better than they anticipated, and then 2, teams that thought they were going to be good that aren't going to be good, that are like, we have this year's pick, we might as well try to tank and maybe get a pick. Obviously, Cooper Flagg is being touted as the main prize in this upcoming draft. But there's 10 other guys in this draft that many believe will be a star in this league, and particularly the top 5 guys, including a brother of a Laker and Armel Traore's brother. You have this draft that is perceived as one of the better drafts in the recent years, and teams are going to prioritize that over. I think this will be a season in which you see the spark of the tank race, right? And then that's good for teams like the Lakers that aren't a part of that. I mean, it's good for other teams too that are active on the trade market, but it is good for the Lakers who are looking for a trade. Portland, you think that they'd rather have a shot at Cooper Flagg for a young team that's trying to rebuild, or keeping Jeremy Grant? They probably prefer going and getting Cooper Flagg. So as we get closer and closer to training camp, and then closer and closer to the trade deadline, you're going to have a lot more options. You're going to have a lot more potential and possibility, because teams are going to want to tank for the bottom in order to go and get one of those prized draft picks this year, right? And a team like the Lakers, they don't even own their pick this year, right? So, this upcoming draft, right? Atlanta owns. So even a team like Atlanta, what if they're half decent, or what if they're bad? Right? I mean, if they're not very good, even with Trey, do they look and go, hey, we should just get rid of Trey, right? And just take a shot at Cooper Flagg or one of these other guys, right? And then now we got, Rizche and one of these young guys that we can kind of build around, right? There's a lot of kind of question marks for many of these teams. And the farther we get and the closer we get to the trade deadline, the more likely it is that the Lakers are going to find something, and there's going to be more options than there are right now, right? The options right now are basically the same options we've had for the last several months, minus DeJounte Murray, which I still think the Lakers should have went and got DeJounte Murray, but too late. What's done is done. But I do think, like, the prices for some of these guys, the Brooklyn Nets, for example, right? They are active in trying to trade guys and unload guys, and they want to kind of rebuild and, kind of go a different direction, right? Yeah, you hear the conversations about, Dorian Finney-Smith for Isaac Okoro potentially being a move that they make, right? So they want to get off of Cam Johnson. They want to get off of several of these guys. So you may have them right now who are like, we want the farm for Cam Johnson right now. But as you get closer to the trade deadline, all of a sudden it's like, all right, fine. Let's take a protected first instead of unprotected first. So let's take a pick swap in a couple seconds rather than a first, just to unload this guy's take for the bottom. We get something that could be of value, a couple sets, whatever, right? I'm not saying that they necessarily go that low, but you get the point, right? Like, teams are going to be more incentivized the closer we get. And then once you get to that trade deadline, this is last call, right? That's it. Right? Whatever you decide to do, whatever decisions you make from that moment forward is what you have to deal with the rest of the season. So, if you're a team like Atlanta or you're a team like Portland, right? Let's say that they do go into the season with Jeremy Grant, right? And the Lakers aren't able to get a deal done right now this offseason, right? All of a sudden, let's say Portland is like fighting for the 10th seed and they're like, this isn't where we want to be. Right? We get off of Jeremy Grant, let's say Jeremy Grant's cooking and having a great year. It's like, man, we really need to get off of this guy, right? Because his values, even if Jeremy Grant could probably average 30 next year and his value isn't going to change because he's still not on a great contract. There's still concerns about him, right? So maybe they go, okay, we should really get rid of this guy. Or maybe one of their young guys get frustrated because of their lack of playing time. Or maybe Jeremy Grant. Right? Like, maybe Josh Billups goes, hey, like, Grant, I'm not playing you 30-plus minutes a game, right? I need to get these young guys going. And now Jeremy Grant disgruntled, right? There's so many elements that can develop with the patience, which is why it's good to be patient. As we saw with trading Russell Westbrook. Everyone and their mother wanted to fleece us. Everyone wanted the farm and then some for the Lakers. Teams wanted stuff that we didn't even have to trade. Like, literally, there were reports that it was like, Lakers don't even have 4 firsts. Like, what are we talking about here? Right? And they were patient. They remained patient. And then you got to that trade deadline, and all of a sudden, Utah goes, we're not really where we want to be. Right? I'd rather have the Lakers pick than the players that we have. Right? And they weren't even willing to give up Jared Vanderbilt. But, they ended up getting to the trade deadline, and they weren't in a position that they were happy with. All of a sudden, Jared Vanderbilt was included, right? And then, you had a team like Minnesota who, again, weren't happy where they were at. So they were willing to get off a D'Lo, right? And Lakers were able to get those pieces. So it's just another argument for the patient route of just staying patient, staying calm. I would love for the Lakers to make a trade. I'd love for while you're watching this video, it's announced that a trade is made, right? Like, depending on when you're watching this video, right? Like, the hope and idea is that something gets done, right? And the sooner it gets done, the better, because then the Lakers at least know, okay, for the most part, this is our team that we're going into the season with, right? Now, JJ Redick can start preparing, doing what he needs to do with the players and the roster that he has, all of that. And then, again, if you get to the trade deadline, it's like, hey, you know what? Like, again, Seth, what did you choose Seth Curry, right? He's available. We could really use a shooter. Let's go get him, right? Like, all of a sudden things start opening up that wouldn't have opened up otherwise, that you may be able to get, or maybe there is a significant piece, right? Let's say you go and you get Jeremy Grant and, or let's say you just stop there, right? Let's say you go get Jeremy Grant, right? Just argument's sake. And then, let's say Lakers, they're active in trying to get like a Wendell Carter Jr. or something, or, a Walker Kessler or something, right? What if one of those teams, like what if Orlando all of a sudden is kind of bad? Or what if, they were best actually with Paolo Banchero at the 5? Well, do they play Banchero more at the 5? And they're like, we kind of get off of Wendell Carter, right? Like, call the Lakers, right? Boom, all of a sudden they're on the phone. Or, like I said, maybe Utah's better than they want to be. Maybe Utah's like, man, hey, we prefer Cooper Flagg. Go get Cooper Flagg, and if they keep Lauri Markkanen, which is kind of looking like it will, like, man, we'd rather have Lauri Markkanen and Cooper Flagg than Walker Kessler, right? Like, let's call the Lakers, right? Like, see if they're still willing to take on Walker Kessler. Let's see if we can kind of get something out of him, right? Like, again, it's the patience, and I do think that this draft is an advantage for the Lakers and teams like teams that are active on the trade market, Dallas and Sacramento and, various teams that are like, hey, we want to make a significant move or two that kind of upgrades and betters the roster. I think the teams that are in the tank race, a lot of their prices are going to go down because a lot of those teams are going to be like, man, like we're the 10th seed in the East, but we're only 2 games back of being the 12th or the 13th, right? Like, hey, like, sell these guys. Like if you're the Nets, it's like, man, why are we keeping Cam Johnson and Dorian Finney-Smith and these guys? Call the Lakers. They want them both. Tell them we'll sell them both, right? And all of a sudden you get 2 guys for cheaper, right? Like, you never know, right? Things develop. But anyway, as always, this is a discussion. Pass a question on to you. Let me know your thoughts and opinions down in the comments below. What do you think? How do you feel? What are your thoughts? Do you agree? Do you think, like, yes, this tank race is going to be good for good business for the Lakers, right? It puts them in a position where they can go. Because again, this draft is perceived as a top tier draft. This draft is perceived as like, hey, there's the top 5 guys are all would be number 1 picks in last year's draft or this previous draft, and you have another half a dozen guys that are looked at as like, man, they would be probably top 3 picks in this year's draft, this previous draft. So all of a sudden there's this value and this incentive for teams to like, hey, let's kind of shoot for the bottom here, right? So anyway, as always, this is a discussion. Again, love to hear your thoughts and opinions. Let me know down in the comments. That being said, if you haven't liked this video, hit that like button. Helps me a lot. It's me enjoy these types of videos, and I truly appreciate it. Not subscribe channel, hit that subscribe button. Turn on the bell notifications. Appreciate y'all. See you in the next one. Thank you.